adan bom net couvert serré juste en besoin. Nettoyer, toujours nettoyer toute bagaille en dedans qui ou ka mette de l'eau et puis un produit chlorine comme changer pour bien wese yo avant mette l'eau en dedans yo. C'est bureau, éducation santé et puis ministère santé qui a offert commission ça là, de bonne volonté yo.
Soufriere, get ready for an essential discussion on community safety. We are pleased to announce the return of Police Forum on 88.5 Soufriere FM. Join us for a 1-hour calling show with our new host, Inspector Rene.
Hello, Soufriere. I am Inspector Rene. On Police Forum, we will explore important topics on community policing and safety. I'm here to answer your questions and work with you to make our community a safer place.
Every Friday at 10 a.m., tune in to 88.5 Soufriere FM for an informative and educational hour with Inspector Rene.
Your concerns matter. Let's discuss how we can collaboratively enhance the safety and well-being of our town.
Police Forum with Inspector Rene, bringing you the information and answers you need. That's every Friday at 10 a.m. on 88.5 Soufriere FM. 88.5 Soufriere FM, your voice, your lines.
Wonderful good morning, everyone, and welcome to our usual Police Forum. Let me take the opportunity to thank everyone for joining us this morning. And once again, welcome to the most informative and educational law enforcement show. I know there are a few other shows within St. Lucia which try to compete with ours, but our show is the most educational, most informative, most interesting show, and it's get really at educating and sensitizing the listening public on all matters as relates to law enforcement activities, safety and security, and personal protection. Let me take the opportunity to thank everyone for joining us, our excellent listening public. Let me take an opportunity to thank you once again for joining us on Police Forum. We have an excellent team of persons who every Friday join us, whether here or in the diaspora. Take time out to join us and enjoy and participate in the show. Today, once again, our show plans on being an exciting, educational, and interesting one. And because I believe today's show will address a problem that we all have seen growing within the town of Soufriere, and I think it is something that is of major concern to each and every person, both law enforcement, the citizens, and other government officials. Before I start, let me big up my team and the people who support this show and the Soufriere Police Station on a daily basis. So let me take an opportunity to thank my team Soufriere and Choiseul. Let me say good morning to my sergeant at Soufriere Police Station, Sergeant Vincent Mark, and my sergeant at Choiseul Police Station, Sergeant Sylvia Smith. Thank you guys for the support that you continue to render to the people and district that you serve, and also me as the head of the two stations. Let me take an opportunity to thank my staff at the Soufriere Police Station, the supervisors, Corporal Challery, Corporal Fauché, who recently joined us from Labrie. Tricia Fauché, she's originally from Choiseul, but now is with us in Soufriere. Let me say good morning to you. Let me say good morning to Corporal Nigel Isidore, who has been doing a fantastic job, ensuring that there's police presence and visibility in the town of Soufriere. Let me say good morning to you. Let me say good morning to my team at Choiseul. Well, before I go to Choiseul, let me say big up to Corporal Mabot Octave, who joined us recently in Soufriere also. And he too is playing his part to lead his team in creating that level of safety and security. Let me say good morning to my team at Choiseul, Corporal Martian Pascal, and all the other personnel at that station who, on a daily basis, Sergeant Sonny, who daily support the activity at Choiseul. And we would know that Soufriere and Choiseul have been deemed the safest communities on the island, and it's because of the excellent work that they do here. Let me say good morning to my waterfront crew, Banker St. Lucia, Miss Martina Donnelly and her team. Thank you for the excellent work and the collaborative relationship, the staff at Ruby's gas station, Criselda and her team, thank you for the support. Let me say good morning to Mr. Gustav, Mr. Riviere, Mr. Robert Alsey from the post office, the staff at the second district court office who continue to work collaboratively with us. My guys on the waterfront, the Soufriere Taxi Association. Let me say good morning to Mr. Didier and his team. Persons like Hartman and Simon says, let me say good morning to you. Let me say good morning to Almond Tree Taxi Association. And again, to my good buddy Dennis, let me say a fantastic good morning to you, to Grammar Zone and your team, all the persons who contribute to the tourism product in Soufriere. Let me say, keep up the good work, continue representing Soufriere in a positive way. Let me say good morning to the staff of the SRDF, especially those at the Sulphur Springs. I know we recently, took away many awards at the Central Tourism Jimmy Awards, and let me say congratulations to all those persons who continue to do an excellent work. Mr. Simon, thank you for the excellent work that you continue to do. I've known Mr. Simon for so many years, and every time I see him, he still has that energy and enthusiasm towards the work. Let me say good morning to him and his team at the Sulphur Spring. Let me say good morning to our fantastic officer, Miss Jessica George, and her team and the wardens. Let me say good morning to you. Today, like I say, we are going to have a very informative show. And informative because the subject area is one that is of major concern to all of us within the town of Soufriere. And today I have a guest, like I always do, but she is really not a guest to this radio station and to this studio, but she's my guest today. So I will allow her to introduce herself and for her to explain why she's a guest today and not the host, because I know she's normally a host at the station. Good morning to you, ma'am.
Good morning, Inspector Rene, and thank you again for having me on your program. It's really an honor to be here and to be seated in the guest seat for once. So I would believe that all the listeners out there would be familiar with me. Ms. Renita Bondiemetre, social worker for both Soufriere and Choiseul, attached with the Division of Human Services. And of course, I'm here because I represent the children. And of course, I want to see that all children are in a safe and healthy environment. So,
well, welcome to the show, Miss Bondiemetre. It is, always a pleasure being in your company. It's always a pleasure working with you. And for those who don't know, the police and the social service, my office and Miss Bondiemetre office have an excellent working relationship that
very much so.
Can improve. I know there are little different areas that we need to work on, but we have an excellent working relationship because the reality is a lot of the work that she does focuses on the young persons. The young persons in and around the town of Soufriere and Choiseul.
Definitely.
And I have never met someone who is so passionate about her job.
Thank you for that.
I could tell you, she goes above and beyond. So just give us a little insight on what really the work of a social worker, with the Department of Human Services entail. What do you do on a daily basis?
Okay. I'm a family caseworker. And as a family caseworker, we deal directly with the family, and that would, of course, we place our emphasis on children. We call them minors from birth to 18. Well, as long as you reach 18, you are deemed an adult. But below that age of 18, of course, you are a minor. You belong to the state of St. Lucia. So social workers represent the state of St. Lucia, where children are in danger, children are not being taken care of as deemed properly or necessary, we would be called in. So we work along the schools, we work along the hospitals, we work along everywhere where children are to ensure their safety and their protection. So part of what I would do, for example, if I'm called that a child, for instance, the school would call me and a school would say, hey, I have not seen a child for, say, 2 weeks. Okay, as much as we have what we call a truancy officer in St. Lucia, and this is the person who would be responsible for children not being at school. But of course, we would be called in to find out what is happening at home. Why isn't that child at school? Okay, so we would go in to investigate to find out how best we can assist, how best we can ensure that child returns to school. So anything that has to do with children and their safety, social workers, family case workers are there.
Great. And I heard you in your introduction mention the word truancy, and this is what our focus will be here on today. And we will be focusing on the truancy, the Education Act of St. Lucia, which spells out a number of things as it relates to children and them being you know, in a school setting on a daily basis, and what are the implications if that does not happen, and who are the persons responsible? Because it's not just the child, but it's also the parents, also the school. So our focus today will be on educating persons on their role. But we you spoke about truancy, and I'm sure a lot of persons would have heard the word but don't understand what exactly it means. So can you take some time to expound on that and to maybe give a definition so all of us can understand what exactly it is?
Okay. When I speak, I like to use my layman terms that everybody understands. So I'm going to give you a simple definition and then read up a definition so everybody would understand. Truancy is really children not attending school, being out of school for a number of days without a certificate of sickness from a doctor to state that, okay, you have a valid reason for not being at school. And something that I think a lot of people are not aware of, I'm not sure if the school asks for it and it's not being given. But just like an employee, you at work and you're out of work for more than 2 days, you're supposed to present a sick leave, what we call a sick leave, okay? A certificate to state why you're not at work. The same as the school. If a child is not at school for more than 2 days, the parent must present that to the school to ensure that, hey, I'm covered. I have a legitimate reason as to why my child is not at school. If that does not happen, of course, the school has a right to inform further authorities to find out what is happening with that child. So we're going back to truancy. Truancy again is a child not being at school, and not just once, but a continuous thing that they're not at school. They came in today one day, this week one day, next week not at all, twice for the term. Okay, so that continuous absenteeism is referred to as truancy. So mean truancy is more than just skipping a class or two. It refers to a pattern of international and unauthorized absences from school. It's important to distinguish truancy from excused absences due to illness or other legitimate reasons. So this is why, again, I said if you're absent with an excuse, a legitimate excuse, then this is not truancy. But if you do not have a legitimate reason for being out of school, of course, it will be seen as truancy. So absenteeism, a high rate of absenteeism from school, this is what we refer to as truancy. Okay.
And it is important that we focus on that, because when I came to Soufriere as the inspector in charge, I was quite alarmed to see the number of students who on a daily basis I will encounter, being outside of school. And as my time progressed, I begin to realize that there are certain individuals who, are always out on the streets. And it is of concern to me because, we see and we know Soufriere is a touristic destination. And I think this is what lures a lot of those young persons. The fact that they now can stay away from school and they now can find creative ways to make money. And now they have gotten so used to that they believe it's more important than education. So it is of concern to me, and this is why I felt it's important that
Mm-hmm.
we, well, and it is something that we both have discussed on a number of occasions,
Yep.
and I've dealt with a number of parents and students as relates to that situation, and it's something
Mm-hmm.
that we continue to grapple with, because there are challenges.
A
There are
lot of
major
challenges, major
challenges as it
challenges.
relates to that, dealing with such a situation. So, from your experience, and looking at the Education Act, what does it say about one, the compulsory school age, the responsibility of the parent, and also the responsibility of the child, as it relates to education and being in school?
Okay. The compulsory school age in St. Lucia is from 5. Now, before the child enters a primary school, it is that a child must go to a pre-K class, of what we call preschool. In the Education Act, it does not really force that persons go to a preschool. Only now it is being enforced. What we have now, I'm not sure if it is the law that the child must attend the preschool, although they're trying to enforce it now. Because what happens is some children do not attend the pre-K class, they don't go to preschool. And then when they get to the grade K, it is difficult for them in the school setting, because not only when you go to a school that you are going to be educated academically, but it's good for socialization. So when a child is not socialized to be in a setting with others, then sometimes it's very difficult for them when they get to this grade key class. So the compulsory age, although it's 5 to be at a primary school, but before that, I would say that it's very important for a child to attend what we call a preschool, to be in a pre-kindergarten class. Okay, and in St. Lucia, our age for, well, up to a secondary school would be 15, but the compulsory age for leaving school in St. Lucia is 16. So this is why now it creates a problem, because we would say that age for leaving school is 16. We have so many challenges as social workers, as police officers, as principals, and so on, to try to keep a child in school beyond that age. There's a high rate of dropouts, not only in Soufriere, but I'm thinking maybe island wide. And when the child is in a secondary school, when the child has attained that age of 16, it's very hard to now enforce that this child remains at school. So this is some of the challenges that we face. And in the Education Act, yes, it has that the right of a child. It is a right of a child to be at school. It is the responsibility of a parent to ensure that that child is at school. Every child deserves an education, and it's the right of a child that every child deserves an education. And this is why we have what we call our truancy officer, like I said earlier. And if a child is not at school, the school has a right to call a truancy officer. There are situations I know that there are children who maybe of age 10 or more who have never been to school.
Wow.
And of course for religious beliefs and so on. So what education has done is that they've worked with some parents where they would say, if you do not want to send your child to school, you can homeschool your child. But of course, you must qualify for that, where you have to follow a set curriculum. You have to ensure that you're liaising with education to ensure that the child is on the right track. Okay, I'm not sure how many parents would do that or know that, but this is what happens, because we know that there are some challenges even during the time of COVID,
Yeah.
where children had to stay home and so on. So they've made that provision. Some parents take it on their own to not send their child to school. They don't follow up with Ministry of Education. They do not follow a set curriculum. It's like, okay, this is my child and I'm doing my thing. Okay. And what I want parents to know is that, yes, it is your child. You give birth to your child. but everywhere you go have set rules and regulations that you need to follow. Okay? And that rule, and you will, please correct me if I'm wrong, Inspector Rene, that this is a law that every child has to be at school, and if that is broken, it is punishable by law.
Yes, and
Okay?
let me just reference the Education Act and what it says on some of what you've mentioned. Section 14, Part 2 of the Education Rights and Responsibilities of Students and Parents, and that's under the Education Act. Firstly, Section 14 says right to education. Subject to available resources, all persons are entitled to receive an educational program appropriate to their needs in accordance with this act. Right? So it says, so it's your right as a student, as a child, to receive the appropriate educational program. Right? And then now it speaks of the student's responsibility, and that's under Section 17. Every student enrolled in a public school or assisted school has a responsibility to 1. Observe the code of conduct and other rules and policies of the ministry and of the school. Attend classes regularly and punctually. Participate in the educational programs in which the student is enrolled. Be diligent in pursuing the prescribed curriculum. And E, observe standards approved by the chief education officer or the principal, as the case may be, with respect to 1, cleanliness and tidiness of the person, general deportment, attire, courtesy, and the respect of the rights of other persons. Right? It also says that students accountable to teacher and principal. Students are accountable to teachers, principals, and ministry. Every student is accountable to the teacher for his or her conduct on the school premises during school hours and during such hours as the teacher is in charge of the student in the class or while engaged in authorized school activities conducted during cut-off school hours, and 2, to the principal for his or her general deportment at any time that he or she is under the supervision of the school and members of the teaching staff, including the time spent in traveling between the school and his or her other place of residence. Right? So basically, it highlights the responsibility of not just the student, but also the school and the teacher and the ministry. Right? So, and we will go into the part that speaks about the parents, right? Right? And responsibility of the parents.
Yeah.
Right? And that section 20 says, subject to subsection 19 and 22, parents of students attending public schools and assisted schools are entitled to A, to be informed of the progress, behavior, and attendance of the children. B, upon reasonable notice to the principal and teacher to observe the instruction of the children if the parental visitation does not impede the instruction of other children. C, to appeal decisions that significantly affect the education, health, or safety of the children. And D, to be consulted in the development of any special education program prepared for their children. 2, subsection 2 says, a parent of a student attending a school may, and at the request of a teacher or principal, shall consult with the teacher or principal with respect to the student's educational program. Every parent shall inform the principal in writing of any medical or other conditions peculiar to their child on admission of the child, or B, as soon as the parent becomes aware of such medical or other conditions. So it speaks of the right, and I realize they emphasize a lot on the rights of the parent, but also the responsibility.
The responsibility of the parents.
Right? The responsibility of the parents. So it clearly shows that, the education system is not just the role of the Ministry of Education, or that of the teacher, but it's a collaborative effort between
Mhm.
the parents, the child, the school, the chief education officer, and the ministry. And and there must be this cohesive relationship where there is consultation, discussion, and there must be interest on each and every person's part,
Most
as it relates
definitely.
to the educating and discipline of that child. So, Miss Boardman, how long have you been in this field? And tell me what changes have you observed, given your experience with interacting with children, and how do you believe those changes have impacted, the behavior of parents, the behavior of teachers, and the behavior of students?
Okay. I will answer you not as a social worker. I will tell you that I was a teacher for almost 20 years. I taught for about that long. And now presently in my field, it's about roughly 5 years in. Um, as a teacher of a primary school, what I realize is very impactful is parental involvement. The children whose parents are always at the school, always finding out what is happening and so on. You would find these are the children who would be performing, these are the children who would be disciplined, these are the children, you would not have much trouble with. But when you have children whose parents do not come to the school, they do not come to meetings, they do not find out, even when the school sends invitations to them, they would not be there. Of course, that would create much trouble. And even to the child, it is not really the child's fault because if my parent is not interested, hey, I may start feeling I'm not important.
Yes.
Okay. So I will start doing things to get attention because I'm not getting the attention that I want. So in I'll go back a little. I know that some people will take my head for certain things I say, but when we had the society of daddies go to work and mommy stay home to take care of the family, you find there was one parent who was able to hold down the fort because there is this person there who was somewhat free to go to the meetings, to be able to be home and so on. But now with both parents working is very difficult. And you find there are a lot of households with one parent, especially the mommies, right? There are single parents. And because of that, it is very difficult sometimes for parents to be as involved as they'd like to be. So that has created a lot of problems. Even recently, I was speaking to a particular parent, and she said to me, Miss, if I'm working at 7 o'clock, I prepare my child to go to school. This child knows he has to be at school. I put everything there, and sometimes I even drop him at the school. By the time I get to work and the principal is calling, my child is not at school. What do you want me to do, miss? I cannot lose my job. I cannot leave my work and go and go looking for the child. So it has become very challenging for some households, especially households with just one parent, to go ahead and navigate with parenting, working, and everything at once. So I would tell you from before, you find more parents will like more stay at home moms.
Yeah.
But now, because it is so demanding with our economy, we one salary is just not cutting it. So you have to you must have parents, both of the parents working. So because of that, I think it has really created a damper on our education system, on our social services, everything. It has created a problem.
So are you saying that you are not a big proponent, supporter of the so-called, how do I describe it? The movement, the feminist movement that we are experiencing today, where, the ladies believe that, hey, they don't need a man in their life to be able to do, what is required of them,
I would totally disagree. Totally disagree. And I will tell you why I disagree. Ladies, you could take my head. This is my opinion. I totally disagree. Because as a single parent myself, and also as an individual, when the Bible said that the man is the head of a household, yes, I mentioned that on my show some time ago, and Got it? So, so when I mentioned that some time ago, I remembered getting some comments. But indeed, God said that for a reason. Okay. And I'm not saying that being the head of the household, a man has to dictate a woman's every move. I'm not saying that he's a controlling person and you are slave, like a slave master. This is not what he meant. Okay. That you have this person who will work along with you, and the two of you will come and do what it needs to be done. Just take, for instance, a boy child. And I had that discussion before with another parent, and again, she almost took my head. Boys need their fathers. There's no ifs, maybes, or anything about it. They need a male figure in their lives. And when that is absent, please carry out a survey. When there is no father figure in a boy's life, carry out a survey and please come to tell me the results. Okay? As opposed to a child who has a father figure in his life. So, persons who are saying that they don't need a man in their lives,
They are being selfish because they are thinking of only themselves and not the impact on the people closest to them.
I would not use the word selfish. I would use the word ignorant. Sorry to say. Because I will tell you why. Sometimes when we speak because of lack of knowledge. We'll speak because of lack of education. We speak because of lack of experience. When you have been sheltered in a house, for instance, we call it growing up with a silver spoon in your mouth.
Yes.
Okay? And you have been pampered and you have everything you need, so to speak, material stuff. And okay, I'm a woman. I have a good enough job. I don't have, well, maybe I don't have children. And I feel I can give myself everything I need. Lo and behold, I have a flat tire by the road. Will it be a woman to stop and change my tire for me? Or can I stop and change my own tire? Can I? Okay. So this is where I would say to you, right. So
So
let's
let us not let us not have the ladies take our head there, and let the show. Let us focus on truancy and the education.
I like
Because
sometimes being the devil's advocate.
I realize. Um, we have people on the stream who are saying good morning. Let me say Tekla Headley saying good morning, Inspector. And guess Tekla Rene is my sister actually in Canada. She's the best, so she always follows me. Sheldon
Which is your
Lionel
biggest supporter?
Yes, my biggest fan.
That's good.
Sheldon Lionel, good morning to you. Sheldon is asking, if a child drops out of school, can you force them back? How do you handle that child? If the child is under 16. Wow, yes. And we will speak on that. But I will, Division 3 of the Act, subsection 27 says compulsory school attendance. And it says every child shall attend school from the beginning of the school year in which that child attains the age of 5 years until the end of the school year in which that child attains the age of 15 years. And subsection 2 says, despite subsection 1, if the ministry is satisfied that it has become necessary or expedient to raise or lower the compulsory school age, the minister may, by order, subject to affirmative resolution of the parliament within 60 days of making of the order, direct that subsection 1 have effect as if for the reference therein there was substitute a reference to any age prescribed in the order. Right? So it's saying that a child must be at school from 5 until the age of 15. And I think there will be some changes because we are in the process of revising our Education Act. And like you mentioned earlier, that there will be the compulsory preschool requirements for children. So that would, I guess, will be captured in the Education Act. And and I remember you speaking about the children being able to transition into the pre-K. And my experience, I could recall when I'm not the youngest person, but I can still remember my first day of school, and there were certain children who, I guess, they were so sheltered, they were so close to their parent. When they now had to transition. They couldn't cope and they would cry from morning until afternoon and be defiant and would want to leave the school compound, because they were not used to being in such a setting. So I think that is very
I can give
important.
you my experience as well. I live very close to the school, and trust
Yeah.
me, break time, by the time break time hits, I'll not be at school again. I'll find myself home and run away from school.
Wow, so you're almost a delinquent.
I used to run away from school and go home. But I will tell you something. I have very parents who are very hard
Yes.
built on discipline, and I would be matched back.
Oh yes, and that is
So
important.
I would be matched back to the school.
You know,
So
I
yeah.
could never forget, my time at both primary and secondary school. My mom would just appear in the school,
Mhm.
you know, and because she had a very good relationship with the principal at the secondary school, and she would just appear, and anything that was brought to her attention about me or my siblings, when you get home, you'll get it, or they would discipline you right
Right at
in
the
at the
school.
school, and I guess that was a system of checks and balances that ensure that hey, I always maintain that high standard, always maintain that level of discipline,
Yeah.
because you never knew when she would get to the school.
Hmm.
And as a parent, it's your duty to check on your child. I know we all are
Definitely.
busy. I know we all have especially the single parents, have very hectic schedule. We have to be at work, but sometimes we do get time off, or we
Yeah,
can request
we
a
can.
day off, and then just come in and check on your child at least once a month. Create that environment where that child knows that hey, there is somebody checking
Check in
on him
on.
or
Right.
her, and that at the end, they can't just do what they want and then believe that the parents will not know.
It is I would call it heartwarming when you hear a child say, me not going to do that. You don't know who my parents are. You don't know my parents. So sometimes when things happen, like recently, I got a note that my daughter missed some classes. So when I went to her and I said, you missed some classes, and she's like, Mommy, no, there's an error. Mommy, I know who my parents are. Yes, and when I went to the school for sure, there was some mix up. So it is, and again, it boils down to the home. To the home. Parents, I know you're telling me, you coming to me and telling me, Miss, I'm doing everything I can. Miss, I'm doing everything. But some of the mistakes, and I say we parents because I'm a parent as well, what we do, we start disciplining too late, parents. We discipline too late. We nip things in the bud. So from very young, you realize, okay, like what I was doing, I was running away from school. How many of you would return that child to school and say, oh, he just a great kid, he crying, so leave him. Okay? So then that child starts manipulating you and crying and telling you, even sometimes I was going to school and I would tell my mother, I have a bellyache. And sometimes I'm not sick at all. I just did not like school. And I would tell my mother, I have a bellyache, and she'll tell me, okay, never un boujon we have. Boye ka l'école. Okay? So I could not get away with it.
Yes.
I didn't have a choice. I just had to stay in the school. My mother would come in the school and trust me, she would have her stick in her hand.
Oh yes.
Okay, so it's a different era now where you'll hear parents telling you, "Don't speak too loud to my child." If my child say, "Don't sit by so and so," don't put my child to sit by so and so. And parents, you are not understanding that you cause more harm than good. Loving a child is not giving that child what he or she wants. You give this child what he or she needs. A lot of us focus on our attention is too much on material things. Okay? I will buy him a clocks. He'll go to school. And I'll buy him the spray ground and he will go to school. And if he doesn't have that or she doesn't have that, she will not go because all the others have and they'll bully. Let me tell you something. Okay? My children only started knowing brand, I think, when they went to the secondary school. As long as your shoe is comfortable, you going to wear
Yeah.
it. I am the provider, not you. And you will know that from very young. Okay?
And I agree, Miss Bondiemetre. The crazy thing that I have experienced is that a child can barely string a proper sentence, can write a proper paragraph, but he is coming to school and the parent is purchasing a spray ground bag for 300 and something dollars, a pair of shoes between $400 and $500, and you wonder, but you ask yourself the question, for me and my parents, the way they raised me was that, you know, it was a performance-based reward system,
And that's what I use with
right?
my children.
You do well, and that is what I do with my kids also,
Yeah.
right? That you do well, you get X, but you don't do or you don't get that A, don't expect to get it, and you will not get it.
Exactly.
So it
Exactly.
baffles me that a parent would feel that your child is getting 30% and 20 something, or is not even attending school, but he or she is coming to school for spray ground. It's asking for a spray ground bar.
There you go.
And then you feel like you have to get it for him or her. So it's just a very interesting time, I must say.
It is.
The children have become so materialistic, so fashionistic, that the focus now is not on education. It's not learning life skill, but to show off what I have. And all that, I guess, contributes to the societal challenges that we face among our students. But it is important that we nip the problem at the bud.
In the bud. Yeah.
Nip it in the bud, because the problematic child today, the delinquent, the child today will be our criminals tomorrow. They will be our prison inmates tomorrow, right? And they'll be the ones that we are hosting a funeral. The parents who are, you will be hosting their funeral, and it's important that we understand that. But again, going to the Education Act, and I want to focus on Division 4, enforcement of compulsory school attendance, right? And it says, and section 47 says, duty of parents to enforce attendance. And it says, subject to subsection 38, it is the duty of the parent of every child of compulsory school age to cause the child to receive education by regular attendance at a school. Right? And it says it's the duty of, it's not the duty of the principal or the teacher, it's the duty
Of the parents.
Right? But I'm sure it's the responsibility of the parent and of the teacher and the school to inform the parent when his or her child is not at school. And then subsection 48 speaks about the valid excuses from attendance. A student shall be excused from school attendance if, one, in the opinion of the minister, the student is receiving satisfactory instruction at home or elsewhere. And he spoke about that. Homeschooling.
Yeah.
The student is excluded from attendance at school under any provision of this act or the regulation made thereunder. The student is unable to attend school because of sickness, danger of infection, infirmity, sudden or serious illness of a parent, or other related causes. The student is suffering from a physical or mental disability that, in the opinion of a registered medical practitioner, makes the student incapable of being educated by ordinary methods of instruction. The student is granted permission by the principal of the school to be temporarily absent from school for grounds and sufficient reason. The student is a participant in observances, celebrations, or activities recognized by a religious denomination. The student has been suspended by a school in accordance with this act and has not been given permission to enroll in another school. The student is enrolled and in regular attendance at a private school or a home education program in accordance with this act, or the student is engaged in work experience or other educational program authorized or approved by the principal. So those are the valid excuses for being absent from school. And I don't see it says just arbitrary decision to stay home. I don't see it featuring there, right? So it is important that parents understand. And, I will go on to speak about the offenses. I think that's what a lot of the members of the public want to know. Is it an offense if a student fails to attend school? Whether there is penalty for that, and who can be held accountable? And like you said,
There is penalty.
It is the responsibility of the parent, as long as that child falls within the age of compulsory school age. It is the responsibility of the parent to have that child in school. And I don't know if you want to expand on that, Ms. Bondiemetre, right?
it is the responsibility of the parent to ensure that that child is at school. Sometimes parents will come and say, I don't have anything to give my child. That is why the ministry made provision with the child feeding program at the school for that, to ensure that children get a meal. Now, yes, you were asked to pay $1, but there is also the needy, for the needy children, where you don't have to pay. You would go, the school provides breakfast, the school provides lunch. So if you don't have anything at home, what are you giving them at home when they stay at home? When the school is providing them with at least two warm meals. Okay? There is also another school, a particular school, a secondary school. I'm not sure if there's a feeding program at all secondary schools, but I know for sure most secondary schools have what they call their own welfare program, where they would assist the children with their meals, with even school books, shoes, whatever. So schools do go the extra mile to ensure that parents are being helped, to ensure children are at school. And still, you will find children staying home. You hear parents say, or children say, I'm not going to school because I need to help my parents. In terms of, my mom is struggling, so I'm already 15. I'm going to drop out of school to go and work so I can assist. This is not a child's responsibility. This is a parent's responsibility to take care of their child. And parents, you do something sometimes. When you speak, you have to be very careful what you say in front of a child, because there are times, of course, I don't look down on any profession, but I believe strongly in education. So it is very wrong to tell a child you don't need an education. Mais mi papa ou son labo e ka fe la han. Mi papa ou ka fe maçon, il pa besoin education. Mi an go contractor la, il pa te fe bien l'école. This is discouraging, because right now we have moved from the era of experience will give you that job to the paperwork.
Certification.
You need the certification. So without the certification, you're nowhere. So parents, it is very important to ensure that from very early you instill in your children that education is important. Education is as important as a breath of life right now. It is very important. And idle hands make mischief. When your child stays home, you're at work, your child stays home. Do you know what your child is doing? Who is supervising that child at this point? So parents, yes, you will say that a lot is on you, but we work collaboratively. All stakeholders come together. This is why here we have you, Inspector Rene, you have myself, you have the school, trying to work collaboratively with parents to ensure that the children are in the best care as possible.
Yeah, so I'm happy you expanded on that. In the era of AI and all the different technologies, our children must be able to, you know, have the life skills, have the understanding of the environment around them.
Yep.
You know, it's technology is taking away so many of the traditional jobs that we knew.
Yep.
That if you don't have some certification, you will become unemployable.
Yep.
And nobody likes to be the one doing the hard labor intensive work. So but if you don't educate yourself, that is the option you have. So we must understand that. We have a few more comments on the live. We have Jackie Lou Daisy saying good morning, guys. Good morning, Jackie. Mary Coulon is saying, great show as usual and great topic. And Mary Coulon is saying, please share information on Facebook as to when the show is happening. I would like to tune in when it is on. It's a great show, listening from the UK. Good morning, and we appreciate that. We appreciate you listening. And again, we will try our best to, put our flyers out a little earlier so that we could,
definitely,
have persons tune in early enough and know what the topic is.
Yeah.
But now that we've spoken and we're approaching that time where we're about to end, but it is important that we speak about the penalties, liabilities of parents, and the offenses as it relates to truancy and a child not attending school. And Section 46, liability of a parent. It says a parent of a child of compulsory school age who neglects or refuses to cause that child to attend school unless the child is excused under subsection 38 commits an offense, and and is liable on summary conviction to a fine exceeding not exceeding $1,000. So the parent can be fined for refusing to allow his or her child to be in court. And subsection 2 says the court may, instead of imposing a fine, require a person convicted of an offense under subsection 1 to enter into a bond not exceeding $1,000 with one or more sureties to be approved by the court on conditions that the person shall, after the expiration of 5 days, cause the child to attend school as required. So, Ms. Bondiemetre, I think it's time that we begin to arrest and charge people. You know, sometimes you don't want to, because a lot of the parents who allow their children not to attend school are those who are struggling. Do you want them to be fined $1,000, right? But the reality is we cannot allow those children to be out on the street, and the parents believe that it's okay.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, I.
Um, Parents who are struggling and they cannot afford the $1,000, would it be $1,000 they would have to pay when this child breaks and enters somebody's house? When that child commits a crime, they would have to pay more. So it's better we nip it in the bud. You pay $1,000 now and ensure your child is at school, than later on you even lose your own child.
Yes. And I
Okay.
could tell you, we had a situation in Soufriere where there was an incident where somebody died, right? And a number of young persons were detained by the police, right, as part of the investigation. And I could tell you, the lawyers who represented those young persons started at no less than $5,000
Exactly.
just to come in and to tell a child, hey, okay, I'm your lawyer and I'm representing you, and to say nothing to the police.
There you go.
$5,000.
Yep. So this is why I'm saying.
$5,000.
So this is why I'm saying it is better sometimes to give you a little wake up call with a little $1,000 than later on you have to pay more than that.
Yes.
So it is, and parents who are throwing their hands up in the air and telling you, "I've done everything I can. What do you want me to do again?" Parents, how is it that some parents are making it work and some parents cannot? So if you need help in parenting, if you need help in getting the child going, please seek that help. And something I will say, that I don't think I will take some of the blame, that there are not enough programs out there. There are not enough programs out there to assist both the parents and the child. I'm disappointed that we're running out of time, because there's so much that needs to be said. The school program, the school's curriculum, as we talk about revising the Education Act, the curriculum needs to be revised, because not enough allocation is made for boys. Boys and girls do not learn in the same way. And you find that so much is for academics. Okay? It's the system is too test oriented. It's all about exams and provision has to be made for boys. So some of the reasons why you find children do not want to go to school, they cannot cope, they cannot function. And saying that as well, parents, I'm hoping again when the Education Act is revised, that there is something that overrides parents' decision when a child will be assessed. And in that assessment, it will say that the child cannot function to their optimum at the normal school. We call this, the primary school and the infant school. And this child has to go to a special education school. To Parents will fight that tooth and nail, because it's to them. It's on me. It reflects on me. Or to tell the child to repeat. My child not going to repeat. My child not going to know Momo school. Let me tell you, I've had fights, and there's nothing in the act or in the law that can be used to help that child. And some of these children, unfortunately, stay in the school system, move from one class to the other. They don't learn anything. And these are the children you find sometimes would get out of the school, stay out, go and hide, because so much is happening. I cannot cope. Why am I going to school?
And I can't agree with you more, Ms. Bondiemetre, because during our time, and as much as the universal secondary school education has its pros, I believe it has its cons also.
It does.
I don't think it was properly rolled out, because I remember back in our days, you had the common entrance examination, that you had to sit. And from early o'clock, your parents would have identified, okay, boy, my son is not an academic, and but still you would go through the common entrance, and then you would still, if you don't pass, because some people are late learners, late bloomers, right? So you would have the first opportunity. That now would, if you do well, you go to a secondary school. If not, you go to, standard five back then, right? Then you have a second chance. And then if you did not pass, at standard five, then now they begin to introduce the technical subjects to you
Yes.
at the primary school, right? And you still had, that opportunity to go to secondary school based on how
There
you
was a
perform
standard
the
six
standard
exams and
exam.
right.
But by that age now, your parent now would have realized that, okay, my child is not academic. And if really you cannot do it at standard six, and at that point, the parents will have some level of control over that child. So then now the parents would begin now to introduce you to a skill. So they would send you to an apprenticeship program. So go and work with that tailor, go and work with that mason, go work with that
Right.
carpenter, go work with that tiler, that electrician. So by the time you turn 15, you had been introduced to a skill. And from there now you decide if you like it or you don't like it, and you stay and then you continue. So that's why we had so many of our tradesmen who are uneducated, but they could build an entire house for you,
Exactly.
right? They could do an electrical installation. They could do the carpentry. They knew how to read a tape. They knew how to use a square, how to use a lever, right? All that was because the children were introduced, they were identified as not being the most academic, and were introduced to the technical aspect, of education. But what now universal education, secondary school has done is, no matter how smart or how not smart you are, you are sent to a secondary school, and students are sent to secondary school who could barely spell the name, who got 10 and 20 and 30%, and you send them into an academic institution and expect them to be able to learn maths and English and integrated science and social studies and all those academic subjects. Those students now cannot cope, and they begin to be a distraction to the rest of the class, and eventually feel isolated and say, I don't want to be in that environment, and stay home.
Definitely.
Right? And then sometimes, and then some of them go throughout the entire school 5 years, and they learn nothing. And at that point, when they graduate now, the parent now, they're asked, because they're 16, 17, 18 already, the parent now don't have that level of control to say, hey, I'm going to send you to the tailor or the seamstress to work with, or with the mason. Don't tell them I ain't doing that. I went to secondary school. You think I went to secondary school, I go and work with a tailor, go and do lab work, because they feel they went to secondary school, but did they learn anything at the secondary school? Are they ready, to face the real life situations or circumstances out there? So it is important that there be a revision, of the entire curriculum and education system. I am happy with the approach of the TVET approach that they've taken, although I still have my concerns relating to that, because I believe, yes, it's been done. I still don't like the way it's been rolled out. I still believe there to be more in-depth assessment analysis of it before it could roll out. But I think there need to be that way of identifying who are our academics, who are our technical, and how now we could best position them to succeed in this life.
I totally agree with you, Inspector Rene, and I always believe in nipping things in the bud. So I do agree with secondary education, but like you were saying, structure it. Give the teachers a proper training. Put the certain programs in the school to accommodate the children who are coming in. Yes, we need our technical schools, because I remembered this technical school in G4 was turned into a secondary school. So we need our technical schools. But what I wish would happen in the primary schools, from primary schools, introduce woodwork, introduce the technical subjects from the primary school. So you find when a child cannot do it, the academic subjects, already they know something. Because I am trying something with my own son. And I would ask my son, what do you like to do? He's 11. He'll tell me nothing, nothing. So I said, okay, you don't know what you like, so I will experiment. I take him to do music, football, you name it. Oh, let me tell you, I have a fight on my hand. But let me tell I am the parent. You will do it. So let us go. And I am sure I can assure you tomorrow, my son will thank me. He will tell me he will get to like something and he will thank me. So this is why I'm saying to parents, this is why you are the parent and this is why this is the child. So you are thinking for this child. Yes, we like to say, oh, the children have a say and children's rights and children's freedom. But where has it taken them? Where has it taken us? Okay, so we need to start thinking for our children sometimes. I'm not saying that the children has no anatomy and they cannot do they cannot do anything for themselves or say anything for themselves. But but I am saying that parents, you need to take sometimes the bull by the horn and do what you need to do to get your children on the right track.
Definitely. We have a few more persons on the line. Hilda Henry saying hello. Hi, my friend. Oh, nice cop. Good day, Hilda. Rena Butcher is saying that they drop out. And Brish is saying, good morning, Inspector Rene. Brish is coming from all the way Belize. Just imagine we have persons from Belize listening to us.
Great.
Good morning, everybody. And, there is so much more that we need to discuss on this show.
We'll have to have a part two
Yes,
of
because
this.
I was just going through the act and again speaking about the various offenses, and I know
Sir?
persons really would like to know all the various offenses as relates to truancy and persons not being in school. And Section 42 of the Act speaks about offenses against school attendees and counselors, and it speaks about so many areas that we compulsory school age and offense, and then it speaks about subject to subsection 2, a person who employs a child of compulsory school age during the school year commits an offense and is liable on summary conviction to a fine not exceeding $2,000. And we see persons, because they don't want to pay a reasonable amount to an adult, they want to hire children. It's an offense, and there are so many other offenses that are committed. So I think we definitely need to come back on
We
the
need
show
to come back.
to speak on that. But again, it is always a pleasure. Do you have any last words, Miss Bondiemetre, before we end?
Before we end, I would like to tell the government of St. Lucia, one truancy officer for the island does not cut it. We need more truancy officers because it makes our job as social workers very difficult. So we need more truancy officers on island. Thank you so much. And parents, we work with you. Please work with us. And I know I'm a parent. I'm a mother of three. So I know how difficult it is to parent. But we cannot give up on our children and we have to be patient. Keep at it. Don't give up.
Okay, fantastic. And like you said, I support the notion that one truancy officer is definitely not enough. However, as a community, I think Soufriere has the resource persons, the facilities to be able to now develop a system, a clear strategy on how we deal with some of the delinquent truant children that we have in our town. So this is my call out to some of the parliamentary rep and the Soufriere, the SRDF, Soufriere Development Foundation, the chief education officer and the district education officer, and your office and my office. We need to now come together as the stakeholders to see how do we address this problem of truancy in Soufriere.
And the parents.
Yes, the parents do. How do we address it? Because today they are children, right? Tomorrow they will be the criminals who will be breaking into our yachts, will be robbing our tourists, will be raping our sisters, and if we don't deal with it now as a community, it will be a problem for us in the future.
Definitely.
So I think this is my preliminary call to all stakeholders that we need to begin to think of this, seriously, look at how and develop a clear strategy as to how we deal with that. Because I am not happy with what I see as the inspector. I foresee some serious problems in the future for Soufriere.
Definitely.
If you know, and we have the examples all around us. We have the Denneries and the View Forts, and we see what is happening in those communities
Yep.
because we have young, idle men and women, who were not given an opportunity to get certified, be able to survive, learn life skills to be able to survive in this demanding modern era. So we now, as a community, must take the bull by the horn and do what we have to do. Let me thank everybody for joining us once again on this fantastic show. Thank for joining us on Police Forum. Like I say, it is the most educational law enforcement show on the island. Again, it is a pleasure. It was a pleasure having you here, Miss Bondiemetre, and I know you will be back here in the not too distant future because there is so much that we need to speak of, so much that we need to
Definitely.
educate the parents. And parents, don't believe that as a parent you cannot go and read the Education Act yourself and understand what your role and responsibility is as a parent, what powers you have as a parent, and how and what are the agencies and facilities that you can access to deal with some of the challenges that you face. So take the time out. The Education Act, you can get a copy. You could always come to my office. I can make a copy available to you electronically. And then you now can research and read. So let me thank everyone for joining us. It was indeed a pleasure having you here on Police Forum, the most educational law enforcement show. Again, I will reiterate my mantra that the community is the police and the police is the community. That if you see something, you have to say something. That we are all responsible for the safety and security of ourselves and our people, and that you now have the responsibility that to share that information to the law enforcement agency. My office is always open. I have an open door policy where you could come in at any time and share any information. However, if you don't want your identity and to remain anonymous, we have the 555 crime tip line, which is free. You call and your information will remain anonymous and a response will be effected based on what information you provide. We also have the crime tip app, which is on Android and iOS devices. You could download them and then you could share information anonymously about serious crimes, serious information that you have that you want the police to intervene or provide some level of response to. However, the 555 and the crime tip line app does not replace the 911 and 999 emergency lines, which are for emergencies, a fire, an accident, somebody is sick, you want an ambulance service. It does not replace that. It is for sensitive law enforcement information. So once again, let me take the time to thank you, Ms. Bondiemetre, thank everyone for joining us, and looking forward to the next Police Forum next Friday, God willing, where we will have informative guests who will share information on a number of areas. Thank you, and have a fantastic Friday, and have a safe and blessed weekend. Thank you very much.
Yo avon mette glou an didan yo. Se Biro Edukasyon Santé epi Ministri Santé ka